with Kedia Malanfe, Robert, who is a militant of the CPDM, part of tonight's edition of the program. Good evening. We got to have you.
Good evening to you. Good evening to my co-panelists. It's a pleasure indeed to be here again as we're analyzing important issues that concerns the life of our nation. If we take note, we realize that the executive arm of government and the judicial arm of government are just there to implement decisions taken by the legislative arm of government. And so each time when they have a session is but very important for us to follow it very closely, to know the decision that they will take that will have a direct impact on us. Special greetings also to Minister Paul Gogomo. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, okay, you are not greeting the guys of Ngokutunja?
Minister Paul Gogomo is in Ngokutunja, and he's the pride of Ngokutunja. So greeting him is greeting the entire division.
Okay, all the funds of Ngokutunja division, we send greetings to you, our Royal Majesties. Thank you for coming also, Mr. Nji Lucas, coming all the way from Boya.
Good evening, Mr. Kum. It's a pleasure sitting here tonight.
Dr. Che Evans is also part of tonight's edition. We are glad to have you. Good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kum. It's a pleasure to be here once more. And special greetings to His Royal Majesty, the Fon of Mankon Fonangwafo, who is always there to look after his people. He left Douala some time ago when he came to commune with the people.
He was here last week?
Exactly.
Sunday?
Yes.
Okay, we also are going to be discussing with you, Tah Mai Javis. Good evening. Glad to have you.
Good evening, Mr. Kum, and good evening to the panelists. A special good evening to the representative of Menchum Division in the Northwest region of Cameroon, all are elected members of parliament. Special good evening to them because we don't have roads, electricity for 9 years. Special good evening to them because our division seemingly is one of the least among the entire Northwest region. So as they deliberate in the glass house, I want to wish them a special good evening and let them remember that we count so much on them, and that while they are there, they should know that the people of Menchum, they are bleeding with electricity, water, and not to talk of insecurity with the inclusion of the herdsmen in the Northwest region. And if there's one thing, like people were saying that people block road for electricity to be given, he mentioned what we will block. Is it road that we don't have? Special good evening to them.
Okay. So much anticipation. Nji Lucas, I'll start with you. Is Cameroon heading for a constitutional amendment?
You know, it's a question that may have a yes, depending on the angle, and a no. And on the other hand, you are likely to get an opinion in between. Given that when you look at what has happened recently in Cameroon, there is a lot, and there have been several calls for the constitution to be amended. So the question would rather be in the mind of those who perhaps want the constitution to be amended or to be reformed. It would be, what kind of reforms are they expecting? Because the constitution is just part of it. But what makes it most beautiful is the law that empowers people to get into offices. That is to say, if we were to first of all begin with the electoral law, I think it would have been wonderful, which I know the parliamentarians, they are likely to look at the electoral law to look at how we can manage the laws to suit the aspirations of Cameroonians. With regards to the constitution itself, we are likely to have the presidential term. We are likely to have it go back to when President Biya made it. We are likely to have it be 5 years. And other things we are likely to have in the constitution would be other positions, which some are looking at it to be elective positions, as the post of the vice president, which of course, in my opinion, I said somewhere that if we are looking at the post of the vice president, then it should not be the post of an appointed vice president. It will make no impact with regards to that, because it would still go back to the same things. And there is a very important aspect in our constitution which I believe the lawmakers are likely not to even touch it. Article 66 of the Constitution, if you read the last 2 lines, it states that the president is going to decide how this would be in place. That is how those who are supposed to declare their asset would have to do it. That there will be a special law, there will be a law setting out modalities on how the declaration of asset is going to look like, which it is at the core of the development of every country, because that particular article seeks to address the issue of embezzlement. It seeks to address the issue of misappropriation of state funds and many other issues which Cameroonians have always wanted to have it clearly spelled out. So to me, I think there will be a constitutional touch, but we are likely not to have it in this in this ordinary session. We are likely not to have this in this ordinary session. The lawmakers are likely to finish within the ordinary session, and there will be a quick call for an extraordinary session, because the cat was indeed let out of the bag beforehand. If you observed, when I followed the National Communication Council, if I read it well, I think a particular print media was indeed lashed for talking about constitutional amendment as such. It would appear they were very categorical with regards to that. They did not look at it to mean something that is likely to be. The statements were like, okay, this is what is going to be. So, in my opinion, they are likely not to take it within this particular session. It is likely going to come in during the extraordinary session.
Okay. Is this nation ripe when you look at the way things are? Is there a dire need for the constitution to be touched?
We are in a progressive democracy, and when we have revendication from people, it is normal that the constitution is being touched depending on the desire of the people. We've had many constitutions that have been changed. If we start from 1961 to 1972 and even 1996 constitutions, there are many things that of course have been changed. So change is constant with regards to the weather and the present situation that is in the country. For me, what is important for me, especially in this electoral year, I think the electoral code should be one of the things that should be looked into. You know, we cannot be in a country where people of 19 years, 18 years can become military men and women, and they don't have that priority to vote. Those are the things that I think it should be looked into. About the other rumors which we have been hearing about subdivisions, divisions, we have been hearing about the reduction of the number of ministries, we have been hearing about the position of the vice president. If these are things, of course, that will strengthen our democracy, then I think it is a very good idea which I will applaud. But if it is a move maybe to satisfy people, or maybe to show the issue of a balance of distribution of positions, because we are in a country now where people from this division will say we don't have a minister, others will say we don't have a secretary of state, others will say we don't have board of director. I think that if the reduction of minister is being done and effectiveness is being given, I think that would be a good move. Because when you look at, let's just talk about the Ministry of National Education, which we had in those days. Now we have the Minister of Basic Education, Minister of Secondary Education, Minister of Higher Education, Minister of Vocational Training, Minister of Civic Education, Minister of Physical Education, and those are budgets. So those are the things that I think that if those ministries could be reduced, those expenditure for money that is being spent to buy cars and the rest for other ministers could be used to invest to the immediate need of the Cameroonian people. Another reason, room or two we have been hearing about is the creation of subdivision and divisions and maybe region. Yes, I applaud it, and I have reasons why I do applaud them. The creation of a region simply means that the creation of a new regional hospital. The creation of a region simply, no, there are structures that every region must have, maybe a Supreme Court, this and that, which means that it cut across all the other, all ministries will be represented. And I think that if that is done, we have effectiveness. Creation of new subdivisions. There are some areas that if they have their own subdivisions, they'll be able to have their own councils, which they'll be able to manage their own affair. That goes back to the effective decentralization we are talking about. Having a division is having a district hospital. Having a division comes entail with all what a subdivision carries. So I think the creation of these divisions definitely will be centralization, bringing administration, of course, closer to the people with their council and other delegations that will be represented there, which also will definitely boost employment in all ramifications. So when I look at all this, I think that is a good move, which I think if it is being brought at the assembly, it will be good. But for me, the position of vice president and prime minister, the same, I think we should be looking about reducing and not definitely increasing, because even presently now we do have a problem. The Secretary of State and the Prime Minister, even those that say they are pure politicians, those that say they are expert in administration, they don't even know who has power more than the other. What can this person do? What can this person not do? I am not even talking about with the presence of, I am not talking about with the power of signature that was given by the head of state, because the head of state can decide to give any of us here that power. But I am talking about the function. Okay. If now we have a collusion between the function of the Secretary of State and the Prime Minister, which we still don't understand, bringing now an appointed...
Secretary General at the Presidency or Secretary of State?
Secretary General at the Presidency, okay, and the Prime Minister. We still have conflicting who has the power to do this or do that. And now the creation again of a Vice President that might be still appointed. This is totally to have some confusions, which I think for me is not necessary.
Yes. Do we badly need some aspects of our constitution to be touched? Dr. Evans Chair?
Yes, Mr. Leo, we really do need issues of the constitution to be touched, especially the famous 66, as Mr. Nji just mentioned. Because I want to say that the number one cause of all the embezzlement we have in this country is arguably because that particular article of the constitution remains unenforced as it needs to be. And that's because we don't have laws that have been put in place to follow up the smooth implementation of that provision of the constitution. So I want to think that if that aspect of the constitution can be touched, and before you take an office, you declare what you have, before you're leaving that office, we are doing a check to see what you're living with, and probably we are thinking about your salary to see if it corresponds with your wealth at this particular moment that you're leaving an office. I think it is going to go a very long way to curb the so much embezzlement that we have in the country. Because if it is not touched, we have issues. People will do as they wish, as we see it presently. And of course, it will be very difficult to hold them accountable, to question a lot of things. So that famous Article 66 of the Constitution, which was put there, and I believe it's for a purpose, I just want to plead that as the National Assembly is seated, they should look into it and see how a smooth and effective implementation can be done. Now, away from that, I want to look at, because the Constitution itself is a agronym, so I want to look at another neighboring law, which is that of the 2006 as amended 2011 law on judicial organization. And specifically, we are looking at separation of power here, because we realize that it will be very difficult if you ask maybe someone who just enters say year 1, year 2, or year 3 law to make a distinction between the arms of government that exist. Tell me exactly what is the role of the legislative arm. Tell me exactly what is the role of the judiciary, and why not the executive. And tell me how different are they from each other. You know, it will be very glaring for you to spare out their roles. But in reality, the question on the table is separation of power in Cameroon, a myth or a reality? Because we see that we cannot really boast of saying that the judiciary is separated from maybe the executive. And all of this, I think they should also look into this issue. Something like the judiciary itself, I want to plead that it should have what we call total independence. It should be able to handle its affairs without any external influence. Yes, something like the judiciary. Because if we don't have this separation of power coming in, then we cannot boast of sound and why not meaningful judgments coming out from the judiciary sector. And also, if we don't have this effective separation of power, then it will be difficult for us to have laws which will reflect the aspirations or the wishes of the people. Remember, we say vox populi, vox Dei. That's to say the voice of the people is the voice of God. So if our legislators can be able to remove laws or enact laws that will reflect the interests of the citizens, then the legislative arm of government itself needs to be totally free. Because I'm trying to understand why, for instance, laws will leave, say, the National Assembly, it moves up to the Senate, and at some point we are talking about approval again from the executive arm of government. If you ask me, I believe the executive or the legislative arm, once you have deliberated on your laws, it goes up to the Senate. At that level, it is as sound and good to go into enforcement as law. They should be given that power. Because if not, we might want to question the laws being put in place, if it actually serves the aspiration of the people, or it serves the aspiration of those who have, you know, put in place these bodies to sit and enact the laws.
Okay. Yes, Tah Mai Javis, do we badly need some aspects to be touched, and which are most pressing?
We have a lot that need to be touched. I believe, let me cue from what he said, the Senate. We cannot actually look at the importance of the Senate as it stands right now. It's just an advisory body. Because if you look at what is, the Senate cannot rescind a bill. The Senate cannot, it's just an advisory body, and they are made up of 100. What are they doing? Anybody can, the head of state has advisors. He has advisors who can advise him on what to do. So if the Senate is at this level the way it is, we need that reform. The Senate should be given the power to do what is called a subcommittee screening of ministers, where the Senate can actually screen appointees. In a certain level, it will help reduce corruption. It will help reduce the tribalism. It will improve meritocracy to a certain level. At least it will give the Cameroonian people the ability, the semblance to understand that to a certain level, those who were appointed, vetted, are working for the good of Cameroonians, as we can see in other countries. In Nigeria, the Senate, the president appoints, the Senate vet. Our Senate cannot vet. That is the role of the Senate. That's why they call them the members of Senate. That's why they have powers. Our Senate cannot rescind a bill. It is more of people who just sit and say, okay, Papa, okay, this, we think that this we think. So the first issue is, if we cannot, if the constitutional, if to me, what we need as reform in any constitutional amendment should begin first by the level of the Senate. If not, in all fairness, we should just, to reduce taxpayers' money, we just shift it. We only have advisors, economic, political advisors, military advisors, at all levels we have advisors. All the sector, the head of state has advisors, and more, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 6 per sector. So what do we need Senate therefore again to advise us, if they cannot be given the powers to rescind bill, where they can look at the bill and say, okay, the Senate needs to vote on this bill before it's approved? Then I think it will give stamina, also vetting power. The Senate should have the authority to vet appointees, political appointees. The problem we may face here is some of them are also political appointees. So who vet who? Because 30 members of the Senate are appointed by the head of state. So how do we deal with these appointees which they too, if they are to vet appointees, who vet them. That is another issue, but they should be given their powers to a certain level. The next issue that I think we need to reform drastically is an issue where the executive, to a certain level, some people still feel that the executive has an overbearing arm on the judiciary, what we call the text of implementation and the constitutional semi-hijack. To a certain level, the constitution will state, they will tell that no, there is supposed to be a text of implementation that must be signed by the head of state, which should stipulate A, B, C, D, E. For example, Article 66, Declaration of Assets, they will tell you the head of state has not signed the text of implementation. Under what condition are you supposed to declare? Under how are you supposed to declare? Under what? Those are the things that people are expecting. But it is a constitution. It is in the constitution, which means that that signature has power over the constitution, which is clear by the legal tendency. That signature overrides the constitution. Then what then is the need of that constitutional provision? If we cannot, to a certain level, say that constitution should have power over a signature, it is now clear. I don't need even a level 200 law student who tell you that when a signature has power over a constitutional provision, it means there is a major problem, there is a breach. You cannot talk about independency. The third thing that I think that needs to be touched as far as the constitutional provision, if at all, they need to be reformed. To my own perspective, we need to look at the voting age of Cameroonians. It is sad at this 21st century, since from 2018, that people have been clamoring that at 18 years, you are considered as a major, you are considered as someone who can take legal responsibility and can stand and assume full responsibility over your action, whether rightfully or wrongfully. That same time, you can be recruited to defend and to die for your homeland, either at the level of the office or at the level of the military, gendarme, police, regardless of the sector. But when it comes to taking decision, who should be elected, that will come and make some laws on you, you don't have the powers. 19 years cannot vote, 20 years cannot vote. To a certain level, but these are men and women who stand on the altar and say, I take you as my lawfully wedded wife. So if you have that decision, if you have that power to stand at the altar and look at a girl to the eyes and look at a man to the eye and say, I do take thee as my lawfully wedded wife in sickness and in health, till death do us part, to procreate. You don't have that power to choose who swear you're married at 20, at 19, at 20. To me, we need to go beyond. So that issue about 18 years, I totally side with Malanfe here because it is a major call for concern. Look at our voting block. How the 18 to 20 years are so many. And if we can do that, it will galvanize interest on people to vote. The last presidential election, what a stimulus, when many young people, that was when some came to understand that they cannot vote because they were 19. Some were active, and at one point they cannot vote. And I think that constitutional amendment, another issue, the ministerial issue is so long. If there is a constitutional amendment, if I thought there needs to be an amendment, we should look at how to reduce cost of governance. Our cost of governance is so much. In fact, we spend much on cost of governance than on the governing itself. If we look at the amount we spend on cost of governance, it can produce boreholes, we can buy transformers, people will not be blocking the street that they don't have transformers. If we look at the cost of governance, look at the ministerial issue. We have the Minister of Public, we have the Minister of Secondary Education, Minister of Higher Education, Minister of Basic Education, we have Minister of Employment and Vocational Training. So, we have Minister of Sport and Physical Education. 5 ministries, 5, and all they have Secretary General, all they have departmental budget. Streamline is to 3, take the remaining 3 or 2 maximum. Take the remaining money, implement it on borehole project or on electricity project or on hospital project. The common man will come back and say, oh yeah. Without that, we are still limping. In fact, the next issue is the regulating of churches. There need to be a constitutional amendment to see into the charlatanism of most of our churches. In fact, most of our churches are exploiting the benevolence of the state for not, because the state says you should worship with free. For example, Christians contribute and build schools, contribute and build hospitals. Those same Christians are taxed to pay high school fees of those schools, high treatment of those hospitals. Now, the question that I ask is, if you say the schools are built by Christians, how come Christians cannot have access to those schools of which they still need to pay the same school fees like any other person who was not giving offering, who was not contributing in that in the construction of that school or buying of that land. It becomes an exploitative tendency where money is taken from this and is sent out of the country. Most of these churches do what is called the capital flight. You take money from Cameroon, you send out of your headquarters. So to me, there is that need of constitutional amendment that, okay, if you are raising revenue in church to construct a project, then you should know that that project will be taxed. And if that project is taxed, then you see how there will kind of be a kind of modification and exploitation will reduce.
Okay, modification and exploitation will be reduced. What is your appraisal of decentralization so far? There are also some persons who are clamoring for federalism in Cameroon. How, or what should be touched that can address the problem, especially with respect to the ongoing crisis in the Northwest and Southwest?
Yeah, it's a great idea to further break the country. I think if our constitution permits the people to decide who leads them, it's going to go a long way to help in this situation when it comes to regional issues. For example, you see, when you look at the regional assemblies, again, move back to the issue of constitution, you would notice that there are still some people who are appointed by the president. And these are things that still do not represent the people. There are people who are appointed by the president, even at the level of regional councils. There are people who are appointed by the president. Now, you clearly see that governors still have higher hands over those who were duly elected by their people. That is another problem. I think these are just kind of some mix-up. You know, it is like a man who wants to give out a daughter and still wants to hold the daughter because she cooks well for him in the house, or maybe she does a lot for him in the house. So whenever the husband wants the daughter, he will say, yes, it's your wife. Whenever the man needs the child to wash the dress, he will want that particular child to stay behind. It's a bad practice. What we need in Cameroon with regards to the regions is that we should be able, I want to believe that if you elect people who understand the needs of the people, they would resonate with the people. They would do exactly what the division, what the region needs. Now, there was, you know, if you observe within this period, Mr. Leo, you would notice that in the Northwest and Southwest region, as much as some people came up thinking that we were to go back to between 1961 and 1972, which is far-fetched, I am not going to be a prophet, but I will speak with respect to how people have evolved. We are never going to go back. Don't be offended, but it's the truth. It's going to help you too. We are never going to go back to what you call two-state federation. It is not possible. This is not possible because a lot of water has gone under the bridge that even that child whom you hid certain information from now knows them. So what is most important is that we should rather look at how we need to take out appointed governors from regions to elected governors within the region. If we can amend the constitution to give power for people to decide who becomes their governor, it is going to go a long way in solving the issue of decentralization. Because within the present status quo, take for example, or take the case of Tiko subdivision or Fungom subdivision. Let me begin with Fungom subdivision. The divisional officer for that subdivision would decide what the mayor for the subdivision, how he's going to organize his council sessions.
I'm not sure. The supervisory authority for councils is the SDO.
Yes, so sorry, the SDO. Now you notice that the SDO for Menchum, thank you, the SDO for Menchum is going to decide how such is going to be. Now, because when you put someone, your supervisor, that person, if you look at within the present context, let me borrow the recent issue at the level of Tiko, where according to the municipal councillors, they waived the sitting fee and said they wanted an election to replace someone who was not active in office. And they waited for the divisional officer for FACO,
the SDO.
who is referred to as the SDO, you know, till date, they have not had that meeting. So you see that there is a problem within that set subdivision or that municipality, and they want to solve their problem, but they are waiting for someone who was appointed by the president to decide on how they are meeting and when they are going to have their meeting. So you see how it is retarding growth, it is retarding development, because the people have identified where there is a problem within the municipality, but they cannot solve the problem because they are waiting for some elected officials. If you look at appointed officials, pardon, if you look at the situation of the you know, a lot of persons have talked about the higher judicial council, that it has not sat. For example, if you look at that particular aspect again from the constitution, where it is the head of state who is the head of the judiciary that has to sit to decide who is going to be promoted, which therefore means that for all these years, these 6 years or plus, we have had some magistrates who are delinquent with respect to the profession, and it is that particular council that is supposed to sit, go through the files as they would have received submissions against these people, to decide if they will be demoted or promoted, or perhaps have some disciplinary measures put in place. But we have not had that for several years, and this is why you see a division like FACO is plagued with land issues, and by extension you listened to what the I think the Attorney General for the Supreme Court said, wherein he mentioned about alarming land issues today in Cameroon. And he had to call on the minister to look into this, where today they issue land certificate and they withdrew it. But imagine if we had a judicial council that would sit to decide if a magistrate goes wrong without the head of state, because presently it cannot sit because the head of state has not convened, and that is still a constitutional.
Lots of advancements have not been done for the past 4 years.
Thank you.
There are persons who are supposed to go on retirement, they have not gone. Yes, transfers have not been done.
Some from school.
Yes, they have not been appointed. You see, so you see that the state is losing a lot because someone is not supposed to be receiving salaries, someone is not supposed to be receiving certain benefits, and yet that person is receiving these benefits because that council has not sat. These are some of the things we need to look at in our constitution to see how we can amend these things. If we do not amend them, then Cameroon is going to keep on moving around the Roman circle. You know, of course, the Roman circle where you think you are heading somewhere, but you are moving around the same circle and you are going nowhere.
Now, when you look at the parliament we have today, do they have enough powers to, strong enough to check the executive powers? Do they have? And what can they do to get to a point, like he said, where they are exclusive and as powerful to be able to carry out their functions without the heavy hand of the executive over them?
The truth is that when you have a position, you have to exploit that position. If you don't exploit the position you have, then indeed you are the one that is doomed. Because who are those that decide the laws of the land? They are those of the assembly, and I think that they have their powers, but there are some issues that if they are being done, like for instance, Mr. Javis was talking about the issue of nomination and appointment of ministers. In Cameroon, we do but appointment, whereas in other countries they do but nomination, where the president proposes each ministry, he proposes 3 people, and the assembly look into their profile and which one is best and have them. But per law of Cameroon, which the same assembly voted, that the president has the right to appoint who he wants, when he wants it, to execute his own, to implement his own ideology in which he was voted. Meaning that as we speak today, if the head of state decides that all ministers will come from FACO, nobody will ask him any question because the law does not say anything. And who are those to put in place this law? They are the assembly, the members of parliament. So I think that they have the capacity to exploit what they have. But sad issue is that some of them know what they have to do, but since some of them are contractors, since some of them go to lobby in these very ministries, I think that that's where there is a problem, where they cannot take those major decisions. Since we are talking about the assembly, I also want to go to talk also about the regional assembly. We call them regional assembly, but I see them do executive activities.
They are there only to implement projects.
Because I hear that members of regional assembly have constructed schools, they have constructed hospitals. So I don't know if it is an assembly with executive power, or the two have been joined together, or they have executive power.
Yeah, but isn't it also an opportunity to make these things clearer? Because regional assembly, I am publishing what the regional assembly in the Northwest, what they have done for the past 5 years. They are doing almost what the public works are doing. Municipalities, the city council,
urban development, all those delegations are doing. And at times when you've studied political science and you see how all this function, at times you are even confused with yourself. Because I don't know if the assembly is practicing but a parliamentary system like in Britain, where parliamentarians become member of the executive arm of government, where they vote law and they see. So everything is mixed up. If they are there as an assembly, we know what an assembly is supposed to do. If there was a crisis for about 7 years today about an educational system, and the two assembly we have in the two regions have never complained about the educational system, it makes me feel like those that went out to strike. Anyway, let me not say it before they'll insult me on social media. Then you also look at those that are complaining about the judicial system. This same assembly have not complained about it. So I start to ask that those that were complaining, either they took something, or anyway, let me not go into that link. Let me come back. When you look at all this, I ask myself this question. Because what we have now in when we talk about federalism, we have a quasi-federal system. In a quasi-federal system simply means that you people have your own legislative where you vote law, but you don't have executive arms. Meaning that you decide your laws, but the councils can implement them, or the various regional delegate should implement them. Whereas if it is a full regional system, you should have those that make the laws, the assembly, and you have an executive arm that implement it. But in the case we have, they do the same thing. So at times it's difficult to blame them that, but we had some particularities. This is what the people were eradicated about. Why are you not talking about it? So there is this clash, and that's the same clash we even have even at the various assembly we have in Yaoundé. So I think that those that are there should be able to listen and have the plight, know the plight of their people. Mr. Kum Leonard, are you aware in Cameroon that our parliamentarians either use their houses or their phone as their offices? They don't have an office in their constituency.
Very few.
How many do you know that have an office in their constituency?
Honorable Etoke had one in Tico. That was in Tico. At the time when it was Honorable Etoke had one in Tico.
Honorable Etombi in Limbe has an office. I've been there twice. There's some. I'm sure Honorable Nji also has an office.
A few.
Let me be honest. When I say an office, people have their private other businesses that they run in their constituencies.
No, for Honorable Etombi,
I know what I'm talking about.
Honorable Etombi in Limbe, it is written there, clear.
Good. That's what I'm talking about. How many of them have those offices where it is written there that they know that this office is for the parliament?
Was written there, his office.
No, just
how many of them have these offices where the people that voted them in their constituency can go to these offices? Look at the bonuses they have. What is the problem if they rent an office of 80,000 per month and have two secretaries there that they pay them maybe 80,000 each, where they can facilitate communication? They don't have it. They don't have it. If you want to talk with one, it's through the phone, or maybe you go to the house. They should have the office where the people can communicate with them, so that they should even know what the people really want. Okay. Because we are talking about the assemblies that we'll be having.
Yeah, but my question to you had to do with the independence and powers of the National Assembly. You said their powers are very limited. Are they also not possible, not capable of strengthening their position and getting away from the executive?
No, that is what I'm explaining.
They're the ones who are making the laws.
They're the ones that are making the laws, and if they are cut off from the people that are supposed to, how many parliamentarians, like, sorry, I'm saying this because when you look at developed countries like in America, when there is a law that they need to vote, you see a parliamentarian going back to his constituency and asking the opinion of the people before they go and vote. What do we vote? And if you go and vote what your state does not want, they penalize you. Coming back to this, I'm saying that, do they have such offices where the people can say that this is what we want, this is what you think you should do? That's why I was bringing that aspect to collaborate on that before talking about other aspects. But I think in Cameroon, the parliament has the power, they convoke ministers, and the minister come and explain what they have to them. We've never seen the parliament saying that we are not okay with this minister, President Paul Biya, remove him. We have never seen them taking the major decision. Because your question, Mr. Kum Leonard, I can analyze it if they have once taken a decision, you know, and that was contrary by the judicial, that I would say that they are weak. But they have not taken it, so it will be very difficult for me to analyze in that perspective to say what we are saying. Then, permit me, I've spoken for long, but please for 1 minute. My co-panelists were talking about the the article of 66, which talk about people should present their asset. See, President Paul Biya is a very good man. Why do I say this? I will not jump behind the issue of asset that people should present their. If CONAC want to get those that they are corrupt, they will get it. If a PAVIO want to get those that they are corrupt, they will get it. And so for me, I think that those people that have been appointed by the head of state should be able to do their jobs, because they have been appointed there. So they don't need people to come and declare before they start to arrest those. We have a good system where we can track money transfers and various aspects of corruption in Cameroon. So if they have been appointed by the head of state, indeed they should do their job. And to conclude again, talking about assembly, they have their power, but please, as you were saying, it is difficult. It does not exist. There is nowhere where there is 100% separation of power. It does not exist. We are talking about a level where we could have an equilibrium. That's why Donald Trump will carry the American military and go into war without the opinion of the parliament, and nothing happens.
Okay. Now, let's look at the current crisis going on in the northwest and southwest regions. What possibly could be touched in the constitution to some extent fix things out there?
Thank you, Mr. Liu. Let me start by making a few remarks on what Mr. Kedia said. Because it is true, we might even want to ask the question, who is a parliamentarian? Because it's like I'm left with the presumption that they themselves, they don't know what they represent or who they actually stand for. Because when we talk about a parliamentarian, in effect, you are the representative of the people. Which means anything you are doing or saying at the level of the assembly or wherever you find yourself, it is being conceived to mean that you are speaking on behalf of the people. So there is no way you can be the voice of the people and you are not in direct contact with these people. Which means it is of paramount importance that the people don't see their representatives only when it's time for election. They need to be able to see their representative every now and then. Their representative need to be with them, understanding their day-to-day life, understanding their plight, so that their representative can take it to the parliament. And also on this issue of the regional assemblies getting into building schools. Well, in as much as we might want to criticize it to an extent, but then personally I feel like if what the city councils cannot do, then the regional assemblies, they are taking it upon themselves to do. To me, we even need to celebrate them, because they have seen areas that are lacking and they are deciding to step in and do the job. Okay, for instance, they've given schools, some are even trying to see how they can arrange roads. Like we speak now in Northwest, I think there is a lodge being built over there. So we should applaud them for some of these things.
Are we not blurring the lines here? People expect our MPs to go to Yaoundé and fix the laws. Whole government check excesses of the executive. That is what they are supposed to tell the people, that we are going to Yaoundé to enact good laws. We are going to Yaoundé to check the excesses of the executive. But people down there have been made, like you are saying, to know that the MP is supposed to come and buy books, buy this, buy the, is that yes, yeah. Should we really be walking this down this path?
Well, in effect, we cannot categorically state that it is the role of the MPs to buy books or come and give.
What is their role?
No, because MPs per se, when we talk about MPs, parliamentarians, we are looking at the laws.
Yes.
Why will you even be the one to buy the books and give to those people? Why not vote? Why not vote or fight for laws that will bring in place policies that can
the resources
down there and have the effective implementation of these things? Because it boils down to the fact that there is a lack of effective implementation. Cameroon is one of those countries with, I want to say, amazing laws. We have we have laws, good laws that have been enacted. They will have a very big problem at the level of implementing those laws. Because I want to think that if we implement the laws exactly as they have been legislated, we will not find ourselves where we are today. Just like the Article 66 we have been crying here. It's a good law. But what is killing that law is a problem of implementation.
Yes, but let's get to the question. What can happen at the level of the constitution that will take the resolution, so the problem solving efforts in the southwest northwest crisis conflict?
Well, at the level of the constitution, I want to say,
with the creation of the position of a vice president given to an Anglophone, is it going to change anything at all?
We might want to ask the question, the ongoing problem, since our focus is there, was it a problem of having the post of a vice president being an Anglophone? Evidently not. It was more of maybe we look at our educational system. And to an extent, the lawyers, they were complaining about the Ohada text and things like that.
Yeah, but if the lawyers and the teachers went back to the courts and to schools, what do we say?
And the assemblies, regional assemblies are not complaining. No,
yes.
Well, truth is that a lot of efforts have been made to solve the problem per se. For instance, the plight of the lawyers, it has been looked into.
The Ohada law
it has been looked into. It has been translated, and that of the teachers gradually looked into as well. So I just want to think that, personally, I feel if we can strengthen the issue of decentralization, it will go a long way to solve some of these problems. Because federation per se, it's a far-fetched dream, just like Mr. Nji rightly put.
No, Mr. Nji talked about two-state
federation.
As it was between 1970s.
We can never have two states.
We can't go back based on the present dynamics.
Yeah.
We cannot go back to two-state federation because it's going to be impossible. Yeah.
Well, personally, I feel like even federation will not solve the problem as it is. I just believe what we need is effective decentralization, and it will go a long way to solve the problems facing the Northwest and the Southwest region.
Yes, are there some aspects that could be touched at the level of the Constitution to accelerate the resolution of the crisis in the Southwest and Northwest?
Yes, of course they are. But before then, let me just briefly react to some issues that Dr. raised here. I'm sure Kedia did not, in one way or another, said they should not construct. We are looking at their principal objective, because the role of a member of parliament is to make sure that the laws that are put in place benefit their constituency, their constituents, and such that their constituents can use that law and grow in their economy, in their political, in their cultural, in all the sectors. But now, when you see people start constructing buildings and doing all those things, and the key focus is not there, the people will be complaining. Now, also briefly on the issue of federation and acceleration, we are already at a level. We were at effective decentralization in 1996. We are at effective decentralization in 1996, and it was till that level that we have moved to accelerated decentralization on the 30th of September 2019, when it was baptized to accelerated decentralization, which till now the Anglophone crisis is still ongoing because of this issue of accelerated decentralization. And in real context, what have we accelerated since the major national dialogue in the context of decentralization? Answering the question, what needs to be touched? A lot needs to be touched as far as resolving the Anglophone crisis is concerned. To me, a 10-state federation would be a great deal. If I thought we still remain the 10 regions, a 10-state federation would be a great deal. How will that 10-state federation give the power of governors not to be appointed? Because when there is that federation, you give the common man the powers to vote their governors. Take away all these SDOs and DOs within the municipalities, because these are redundant positions which are conflicting with normal other positions. For example, Mr. Nji pointed out a classical case of what is happening in Tico. That's a classical case where an elected official cannot operate because an appointed official has no mandate, and that takes development backward, and that question the sacrosanct and the importance of the vote. Was the vote even necessary to a certain level? If you are looking at from a bigger perspective. To me, if there is an amendment that will resolve the Anglophone crisis, remember, it's not just the Anglophone crisis. We have other crises. We have other small tribal crises that are still within. And now, if the constitution is a bit touched to give the 10-state federation, it will give the people of the different. One, it will reduce this conflict between these people from this other side who call these other people's names, and these other people who call these other people's names. It will reduce it because of this. A social conflict, as some people say, we can never be with federation, this kind of people, we can never be. It reduces that social conflict, first of all. Second, it gives the people the power to see how, let's take, for example, that there is a 10-state federation, and the governors are elected. When a governor is elected, he knows how he can navigate within the community, the regions, and resolve the conflict from a communal dialogue perspective. The head of state talked about communal dialogue, but we have not seen this communal dialogue starting anytime soon. And if there is a 10-state federation, we will not have even been talking about communal dialogue, because the governors elected will be in the best interest of the people of that region. Look at all the regional governors we have. Look at all the senior divisional officers. Do you know that a council session cannot take place without a senior divisional officer? Do you know that there are some projects that you cannot execute without a senior divisional officer appending his signature and approval?
The regional assembly cannot sit within the framework of the special status.
Special status, because the governor is there. So at the end of the day, let us even look at the special status. The special status needs to be given an additional touch in such a way that it becomes fully.
The governor is invited.
It becomes fully in its operationality. Because let us look at this issue about the special status. Let's come back to the special status. The chief executive officer of the region, from the economic perspective and the rest, is supposed to be the head of the regional council. But in practice, we see there's a conflict. They will tell you that no, we have independent conciliator. We have the independent conciliator, we have the governor, we have the president of the regional assembly. So, Mr. Alio, to answer your question in total, if the constitution, if to me, to resolve the Anglophone crisis, there need to be a bit of semblance of federation that will reduce a certain level of administrative bottleneck. Because again, there's a problem here. The Anglophone crisis is there, but there's also a crisis up north. There's also a crisis at the east. Now, all of these crises, They may be independent in their function, but they are not mutually exclusive because they see cut across, wearing down the budget of the country and the rest. So another issue before you quickly pass on the mic is the issue about the redundancy, and that's why I pray that if there's a constitutional amendment, it will technically give powers to elected officials and not appointed officials. Let us look, for example, we have roads in Bamenda. Who take care of the major roads? They will tell you that there is a city road, there is a municipal road, there is an urban road. Now we have Minister of Urban Development. What do they do? We have the Minister of Public Work. There's a public work issue. What does he do? We have the minister. We have the
all ministers.
Yes. We also have the members of parliament that want to construct. We have the mayors. And yet, Bamenda is the way it is. We have the city mayor. Who does what and where and how? And to a certain level, our members of parliament have one great job that I want to applaud them for. The great job is organizing interquarter competition, which is very good. I want to applaud them because that's the only thing that you can really score them perfect pass without any stress. Every holiday interquarter football competition, I hail them.
Okay. Now I asked you about the powers and independence of our National Assembly. Let's look at the Senate. Does Cameroon still need a Senate? Is the upper chamber effective or redundant?
The upper chamber, to be categorical, it does not decide on any bill that comes in to deliberate on. It only puts its voice on it when the lower house must have voted and approved it. So they go now, they look at it to approve. They don't even deliberate. Technicalities of the bill, they don't know it. So they are redundant to me in the sense that, and what is quite unfortunate, senators receive about 5 million francs CFA per month. My heart breaks every time I think about that. Because to imagine, you know, after 1996, the first senatorial election took place in 2010.
Which senator told you that they received 5 million?
I said they receive about, which means you need to understand that they receive a lot of money. Now, looking at the Senate, firstly, they don't decide on the bills, and there are things that the lower house, as we put it, can decide for it to go through, which I think there is no need for the Senate, because the Senate is not solving any problem that we have on the ground. To imagine that in that number that you would have had people who do not like a particular bill to go through, the 30 people that are appointed by the president, we all know, how do you want to cause my son, whom I am well pleased, to work against me when I send him somewhere to represent me? So you realize that. Let us remove the first 30% of the Senate to imagine that a particular bill goes into the Senate. Or take a case of the 2019 bill on bilingualism, which Senator Moki spoke elaborately on it, and he made especially the Anglophones to see that it was not a need at that moment, because one of the things he said is that people like him who are on the ground, to imagine that he will sit there to say these things should be put in place, then it will mean that he's shooting himself in the leg, because he is the only one who lives with his people, which I've seen to an extent. Now, the first 30%, that's the 30 appointed senators by the head of state, they are already a guarantee of a certain 30 vote. Before you start looking at those who probably will not want it to go through. So you realize that the Senate is almost divided to an extent that no matter what you do, a bill will go through. A bill will go through. So what is most important here is, it is not for us to have the semblance of a people who should be solving a problem and a people who are there because someone thought of compensating his friends and creating an office. What is most important in this country is it is for us to reduce the amount of money we spend on institutions. I went back to look at some of the things President Ahmadou Ahidjo complained about, that it was so expensive for Cameroon to run in the 1970s, before we came up to 20th of May 1972. That the 4 assemblies we had in the country, they were too expensive for the states to run. That they were too expensive. Now, we are in that same state today, where you have the regional assemblies, you have the National Assembly, you have the Senate,
House of Chiefs.
you have the House of Chiefs. These are the same things President Ahmadou Ahidjo at that time with his government said it was one of the reasons why they said we should go in for a referendum to scrap off the federal system. But today we are into it. And what is quite no, we haven't even multiplied. Thank you, Tah Mai. And what is quite unfortunate is that
14 assemblies now.
okay, we have 14 assemblies.
14.
Okay. So what is quite unfortunate is that between the year 1961 and 1972, before we went into this, if you look at the development speed of the country, it was faster than what we have today. I know that Malanfe is coming to tell me about his giant man, President Paul Biya, who is doing a lot for Cameroonians in his time. But I'll tell you that if you go back to measure embezzlement, development, the way Cameroonians were thinking about the growth and the welfare of the country, it doesn't mean that we have not had corruption. The truth is, no matter where we put it, I know we are going to curb corruption, we cannot eradicate corruption. But what is most important is that we should not keep bringing up offices and institutions that are there to milk the poor person, because in the end, the person who does not have truly that scripture that says, the little he has will be taken and given to he who has. It is exactly what is happening in this country, where the poor man is forced to pay taxes that are not meant for his development, but to make better the life of someone who already has in the name of an institution. So
Kedia.
The Senate is not a need in Cameroon as it stands for the sake of cost and for what it does. And if you remove
which other structures are redundant in Cameroon by a judgment, which are just consuming Cameroon's budget?
There are so many. If I move down to the regional assemblies, it is not for you to think. What is quite unfortunate with most of those at the regional assembly are the same people who have served in this government. They went on retirement. The party decided to bring them in, so they should pick up 1 or 2. Now, you realize that if it's in terms of solving a problem per se, they are not solving the problem. Because if you go back to 2019, when we succeeded to have some idea on how we could manage, then special status came up. The other 8 regions, it was not good to let them be the way they were. So we said, okay, they should have what is known as regional councils, while we have regional assemblies.
Yeah, but the question, since you guys are insisting on the regional assemblies, if the regional assemblies are there to get this job done, that is the projects they are executing, it's coming from budget sent from Yaoundé. Why not just send this budget with the same projects to the councils to implement them? Why create another? Because by implementing these projects, they are consuming so much money. Yes, why not just send the budget down to the respective municipal councils to get the job done?
Firstly, we need to differentiate things. What's the difference between regional councils and regional assembly? Why is the Northwest and the Southwest having regional assembly? Why are the others having regional councils? When they say assembly, it goes with laws, from what I know.
Yes, the word assembly.
When they say assembly, it goes with laws. And it was put assembly with a special status because they know we have problem of educational system, judicial system, and the rest. So I, as a young politician, I knew that those are the things they will look into where they have problems to rely to Yaoundé.
The issues that birth the crisis.
The crisis. I knew that's why they are an assembly, why the others are councils. But when I see them doing the job of the regional delegate of all the ministries, doing the job of city mayor, doing the job of mayors, there is a mix-up. Then they should change the name from regional assembly to regional councillors. Because when they say regional councillors here, we look at it in the perspective of municipal councillors, city councillors, regional councillors. Then they can do that job. But when they call them assembly, that is what we are expecting from them. An assembly cannot be created different from a council. And it was created because of the Anglophone crisis. And a special status was given. And they have not sat to talk about the crisis and those complaints that led to the creation of the two assemblies.
They're simply implementing projects.
Then I asked myself the objective. To go back again, we are mixing up the duties. For me, I think that many people are mixing up the duty of a senator and a parliamentarian. Parliamentarians, once voted, represent the republic and they are voting the laws for the nation. But from what I know is that senators are representing the collectivity of decentralization, from what I know. And now, if these ones are representing the collectivity of decentralization, then what is the job there in that decentralization that they as senators ought to do? And those that are there to parliamentarians, what are they there
because the
do?
senators themselves, they'll buy equipment and go to hospitals. They'll go to schools. Exactly what they'll still do some of the job of the regional assembly, still what the city council is doing. Almost everybody is just there to implement projects.
All right, let me put it this way. For me, we should remember that parliamentarians are voted by universal suffrage, but senators are voted by councillors.
Yes.
So they represent the collectivity of decentralization. Meaning that if a senator, for instance, if our 10 senators from the Northwest, they are going to Yaoundé, they are looking at those things that are the particular interest of the people of Northwest to defend.
Preventing the decentralized, the mayors to carry out their functions.
Yes. Meaning that a parliamentarian is voting a law for the nation. Because if they say stealing is 7 years, it's for the entire nation. But a senator that was voted by those collectivity of decentralization is going for the agenda of his people.
So which means that a man who was voted for the nation, he votes a law, sends it to you who was voted for a particular people.
That is,
you are the one who
see, you are getting it wrong. You are getting it wrong. You are taking it in the context of maybe Nigeria and the rest and other countries. I'm talking about the context of Cameroon. Because we have that mindset that in Nigeria is federalism, where bills are passed, senators can reject it, senators can do this. But what is the context of our own Senate in Cameroon? Our own context of Senate in Cameroon here, they are representing the collectivity of decentralization. They are different from parliamentarians that are voting laws for the entire nation. So when we distinguish this, then we know who is supposed to do what. And I believe as I'm talking like this, senators are watching and they know what they are supposed to do. We should not assume that since in America senators have the right to reject certain bills, we assume that the context of Cameroon and the law of Cameroon stipulate that it must go the same way. So we should. So those are the contexts that I think.
Okay, away from there, if they were to touch the constitution to address some of the issues in the Northwest and Southwest, what would those aspects be?
For me, because now when we talk about forms of states, when we talk about federalism, decentralization, we will explain all the big grammar. But the difference is that in decentralization, the resources are managed by the government, and a percentage is given to the communes, which we can say 15%, 20%.
15%.
Yeah, 15%. But in federalism, those states have that ability to manage most of the resources and instead give part of money to the central government. Those are the two things.
In federalism, the federal government is a recipient. While in this decentralization, the regional institutions are the recipient from the state. That's basically what it is. Which, of course, it goes back now not to help in the cause of development, because unfortunately in Cameroon, we pick up all what is within the region, we send it to Yaoundé. Then Yaoundé will sit and decide what percentage comes back to us, which in most cases, we could even pick up 1,000% and send to Yaoundé, and Yaoundé will give us just 15% of that total.
Okay. So the mix up now go with the issue of percentage and how things are being done. But going straight to the point, for me, I think that the position of the dues, the governors, should be regulated. They should be like normal regional delegates and have their own power what they do. Because you see, in federalism, because in all systems, the council has people that regulate them. If in Cameroon we say the dues are the one regulating them, we should know that in other federal systems, the judiciary is structured in the way that they regulate the council. Because I believe that even in Cameroon, that's the same thing, right? We have the magistrate court is at the level of the division, and in the regional level, we have court of appeal. So the court of appeal, of course, look what the regional assembly is doing. Why, of course, the magistrate court would look at what the mayors are doing. So we can still remove the dues, but those people will still have that function. But I still think that a mayor that is being elected by his people should be the chef there. I think that if that aspect should be looked, but I know it will not be looked into because us Cameroonians are not prepared. Sorry, I've said something good and I'll finish it this way. We are not prepared.
Okay, I want us to look at what reforms could be done at the level of our electoral code. Where do we need fixing?
Oh, yes. On the issue of the electoral code, we start with the voting age.
Okay.
Yes.
He raised that.
We need to actually touch that. Then, when we look at something like the Constitutional Council that even sits to look at issues of election petitions and the likes, I want to think that we should experience some degree of neutrality at that level. And when I'm talking about neutrality here, you bear with me that the Constitutional Council itself is not, I would say, 100% neutral, because we see people who have served the government in the context of the regime itself, that's the ruling citizen party, and they themselves, they are the people piloting that council. So it already questions to an extent the credibility of whatever that council might want to send out to the people. Because in the heat of just this past election, you realize that over the media, everyone was just like, we cannot trust anything coming out from there. We cannot trust anything coming out from there. And you will not blame them. Why? Because their justification is that you don't expect someone who appoints people that he has once, been with them, and you just expect that those people overnight will turn wolves. It's not really possible. So if the members of the Constitutional Council can really be neutral, and why not be elected to be there, not appointed, I think it is going to give some credibility as far as resolving petitions at the level of electoral disputes is concerned. So that's a major thing that I believe we can look into to ensure that let there be credibility. When we are taking petitions to that council, we should be going there with an open mind, so trusting what will be coming out from there.
Be appointed should be taken from the civil society. Just
like we see CONAC, where we have maybe a clergyman heading that department. To me, if we can have, even the clergymen who are anti-politics per se
but
find themselves there. I will even get to the civil society. There are people who can sit there, they read, they understand the context of the laws, they will be able to do them. But having people who are politically inclined, people who are partisan, being there,
maybe they resigned after their appointment.
And it's the same thing I raised. Even if they resign, just the mere fact that you have once been there, do you really think you can sit there and, you know, it's Mr. Leo is a tight corner. Reason why we should not even have people who have been there.
What about term limits and running age, especially for the level of the presidency?
I think that term limit is very important and running age. But before then, let me just briefly add my voice to that electoral issue. To me, the issue about it should not be the transparency of the Constitutional Council, because by law, we believe that it's transparent by law. To me, the issue should be Elecam should be given the powers to decide the result, to announce the result, to declare the result. Not just to be, Elecam is more like a catalyst in Cameroon's election. And what is a catalyst? A catalyst speeds up the rate of the reaction, but end up not being used in the reaction. It's the same thing that Elecam does. Elecam just tells you that no, we are just transporting voting materials and transporting. So you cannot take Elecam to cause a catalyst. So the fundamental thing here is, if we need an amendment at the electoral code, in fact, that one for 20 and 18 years should be first halted. That issue of Elecam should fully take ownership in running the election, such that they can be sued if there is irregularity. They can be sued if there are issues pertaining to the election. Because now you cannot sue them. They will tell you that we are a catalyst. Because it's the Constitutional Council that gives that mandate. Now, if Elecam is giving this mandate, I think it will go a long way to improve on what is called the transparency, and then I will be able to take ownership on some issues. Because now, to a certain level, they may be nonchalant because I'm not in charge. Yeah, I'm just a vessel that is being used. So to me, Elecam, if there's an amendment, all these political parties, opposition parties, this is now where they were supposed to be adding their voices and talking about this issue. Now that the parliament is in session. But where are they? They are quiet. They are not moving. This is the moment where most of this discussion we are having, they should have been championing them.
Probably they are backstage to other parliamentarians.
Backstage or not, you are writing backstage and you are also guarding public opinion. How many of you are guarding public opinion? It's also important. While you are fighting backstage, public opinion also more pressure. But to me, you don't see them at that level. Because, anyway, let me come now to the question of the day. The question which you asked. To me, if we look at the term limit is very important. And it should also start at the level of the parliamentarians. The parliamentarians should have term limit. Because if you are having term limit at the level of the presidency, which is very important, 3 term, 4 term, or 2 term or so, but the parliamentarians also should have term limit. Because we know that there are parliamentarians who have been there since before I was born. I'm still hearing their name now at my 30-something years. And we are expecting the president to have term limit, whereas they don't have term limit.
The lawmakers, yeah.
They are the one. The lawmakers should have term limit. They should say, okay, because it's parliament, because it involves the law, it's not 2 like the presidency. We can say 3 mandates. For the presidency, we can say at least 2 mandates and reduce the age or the term limit of the presidency. Because to me, that 7 years is too much. Take it to 5. When you take it to 5, give 2 terms, so that within 10 years we move. Because there's a caveat we have here. Like in America, if we have generational leaders, that issue of 5 years is not an issue. Because generational leaders plan policies that even if it's Mr. Nji that enters that office, there is a government policy for the strategic policy of the next 50 years. He follows that strategic policy of the next 50 years. If it's doctor who gets into that office, there's a strategic policy that by 2039, this is what we want to achieve. And that's why the Chinese will borrow our heads of states in Africa loan. They know that they'll collect that loan in the next 100 years. The Chinese president or who is giving you that loan will not be allowed in 100 years to collect the loan. It's probably 80-something or 70-something. But the nation hides in oil across. Why? Because they are having a strategic vision. That is why if you have a strategic vision, term limit is not a problem. But the problem with some will tell that, no, if I enter now, I will not be able to do this, to do that. Time will catch me. We need term limit at the level of the lawmakers, term limit also at the level of the presidency, and now term limit at the level of ministers. A minister should not be a minister for 21 years.
Yeah, but automatically, if you have term limit for the presidency, it means that another person is coming and that person will settle
I
down.
agree. Yes,
Yeah, so
yes.
if there is effective respect
Yes.
for term limits,
Yes.
that is going to fix
Yes.
that. Yeah.
I think term limit for the president is cool. This is what the parliament should work on. And on the issue of the Constitutional Council, the Constitutional Council is basically not an institution in this country that is helping us in any way. There is yes, it's not helping us in any way. Okay, it is helping a particular people, but not solving the Cameroonian problem. If you want to understand that, we are on a TV platform right now. If the host decides to launch a vox pop as we speak, you are going to get the result. If you take it across, you'll get the result. I know as a politician that you are, you have your own orientation as
The
concerning it.
Constitutional Council is not only for politics or
No,
elections.
no.
It's
Issues of
based on how you see it. That's
no. When you talk about constitutionalities and things that has to do with our constitutions, the first thing you need to look at here is there is a fundamental problem in our constitution with regards to the Constitutional Council on the agility of the president, on the issue of election, on so many issues that the Constitutional Council has proven to Cameroonians that, okay, this is not an institution that you should rely on. There is a group of Cameroonians that abide to it. It is clear. It can never be the total. But what is most important is that if we want to do a research, which of course all the political institutions and democratic institutions, they need to carry out certain research on some of these things. And this is what we are saying, this is what I am saying, that the Constitutional Council is one of the same institutions. Another institution that takes a lot of the monies that we don't deserve, that should be looked into by the Constitution, is the Economic and Social Council. You would bear with me that for all my entire years until when the president or the head of that particular institution passed on, or Mr. Ayang Lu, you would bear with me that there was never a time we sat and understood what these Social and Economic Council did. No. I'm talking about there's a group of Cameroonians that are not limited to you from a partisan perspective. I am not speaking from a partisan perspective. Okay, which is most important. So these are institutions that they are not helping us. Elecam should first of all start with itself. How are members of the same board chosen? We understand that at a particular point, consultations were done, recommendations were done by a particular group of people, certain people were submitted, and that is how certain members were appointed. And there are some who are doing a marvelous job as concerning this. Issues of elections in a country should not be partly in the hands of the body that organized the election and another institution. And this is where there's a problem. And it easily comes in with issues that you have irregularities in between. Yeah. Because between that moment, he is about to release what he had to you, a lot transpires. But if Elecam should be given the total power she deserves, that they will organize election, every election, and what is quite unfortunate is that there are elections that Elecam is required to declare who won. The elections that Elecam needs to give a particular result to a particular people. Why do you cut part of its declaration of the result and keep part of it? For whatever purpose. So Elecam should be given the entire power to manage that. And the aspect of the age limit, because today in Cameroon, the young people got so stirred up during this 2025 presidential elections to an extent that we did see. And there was that age that could not vote. Only they had to realize. Tah Mai talked to that. They had to realize only later. I had some young people who called me all through the night, only to notice the next day that they were not eligible for me to go and register them. And they had assembled themselves. I had over 300 young people who were not up to the voting age but they were adult as per the law.
They can stand and say, I think
They can do anything, you know, but for voting. So you see, another very worrisome aspect as concerning the constitution of this country is the issue of the president having enormous powers. The president of this country. Now, to be candid, if you look at everything, it goes back to him. Take, for example, he came up while we were waiting for him to tell us the next date for the municipal and legislative elections. Then he made a statement that had a comma that this year there will be some modifications as concerning elections. And we don't know yet. And it is technically being said that he has already postponed that election twice, because we will soon get into the date, he postponed this election to be. If you go back to when he postponed this election, I think it should be in May or so.
Okay.
Something I want to say.
This is not, anyway, you have already used some other person's time.
Please, when we are talking about extension of mandate, it's not to come on platform and say you have done it 1 time, 2 times. What does the law say?
No, that
can extend.
Malanfe, this is why I said the constitution should look into that, such that it does not happen further. I am not saying that the law does not.
Can I even finish what I'm saying?
No, please.
It cannot be extended for more than 18 months, right? That's it. And the president has not extended 18 months, so he's within the law. That's just what I'm saying. Coming back again to the Economic and the Social Council, you may say they are not doing a job, but you should know that that council gives report, but to the head of state, not to the public.
Where do we get them?
So if the head of state is not complaining that he has not been, then why are you complaining? Is the report for you? The report is not for the public.
By extension, the head of state reports to Cameroonians. So is it required for him to take and put under his bed?
The president, not ask from them.
No. It's an institution that does not have. It's not serving its purpose. What do the people know about it?
What is the use of the Social and Economic Council? Is to give advice to the president on economic and social activity, to the president, not to the public. Very soon you will say the technical advisor of the president should also bring those technical advice to the public. So we should not mix these things. And to finish, the Constitutional Council is just a supreme body, the way we have the Magistrate Court, the Court of Appeal, the Supreme Court, and the Constitutional Court. So it is not only for election. And for me to conclude, I will simply say that one of the best institutions we have here is Elecam. And the appointment of members of Elecam, President Pobia was inspired by the Holy Spirit to appoint the right people that are doing the right job there. So we don't need to come here and complain. They are doing a perfect job, and they'll continue carrying on our election because they are doing actually the right thing. Actually the right thing.
Okay, please, Dr. Chair Evans Nde. Yes, our current anti-corruption laws are strong enough to tackle public sector corruption. Let's look at the role of the National Anti-Corruption Commission, CONAC, and others. Should asset declaration laws be enforced more strictly?
Yes, Mr. Liu. First, I want to appreciate CONAC per se, because from time to time they release reports. We read reports on how they've been able to tackle corruption and what they've been able to do. But my greatest worry is that if we are still seeing and hearing, of course, a lot of corruption news up and down, that just goes to explain the fact that corruption itself is still a cankerworm that has left no sector untouched in Cameroon. And if all of these things are happening, it most definitely means that something is wrong with the laws or with the institutions charged with the powers to fight this corruption. So it's not as if CONAC is not doing its job. Like I said, presently I'm working on an article which even touches on corruption, and wherein I'm trying to look at the role of African diasporas per se, what is their own contribution in the fight against corruption, because corruption now as it is in Africa, and why not Cameroon particularly, is not something that can be fought just by an institution. It warrants a collective action by all. Even you seated here, you have a role to play as far as fighting corruption is concerned, because the institutions alone can no longer do the job. Reason why we still experience a lot of corrupt practices in the country. Because when we even look at corruption itself, you bear with me that corruption is not being practiced by one person. Okay, we have you who is going probably asking for a favor, you who is receiving. So a lot of sensitization needs to be done to see how we can kill this disease called corruption. A lot of even platforms like this, we use them to spread the ills of corruption. So corruption at this moment, we cannot leave it in the hands of CONAC, because for the many years, I want to think 20 or so that they've been existing, we still experience deep-rooted corruption issues.
What should be done effectively?
To propose a solution to this problem, like I said, I don't want to look at corruption to be something that needs to be, fought by a particular institution. I want to look at corruption as a disease which warrants a collective effort. The institutions are coming in, the parliamentarians are coming in, even the commoners, the citizens, they are also coming in with active role to play. The civil society is coming in also. Do a lot of sensitization on the ills of corruption, because if we assess how much this country loses in a year just because of corruption, it's so alarming. Okay. I'll take a simple case. This issue of clandestine transportation, and why not the toll gate. We've been traveling and we get to a point, you see somebody gives maybe the ticket 500 francs, but you will not collect your ticket. They give you maybe cola nuts or bananas and stuff like that. What are you doing? So it is so normal in such a way that people promote the whole issue of corruption without even knowing that they are promoting it. That's why I say corruption at this point, we should not look at CONAC as the alpha and the omega to kill this disease called corruption. We should look at it from a perspective wherein everybody comes and we put all hands on deck to see how we can solve it.
Okay, the Economic and Social Council in Cameroon advises on economic, social, and cultural matters. Its main functions include providing opinions on draft laws and regulations related to economic and social development, conducting studies and proposing solutions to economic and social issues, facilitating dialogue between government, private sector, and civil society, and promoting social cohesion and economic growth. Shambi Emmanuel, writing from Gaundare, says, "Greetings, Mr. Liu, everyone on board. Let us go in for 10-state federation while eliminating the Senate House, regional councils, CONAC, Regional Assembly, Bilingualism Commission, National Communication Council, and regroup all educational ministries under the National Education. This will reduce unnecessary expenditures as we reallocate our scarce resources to foster growth by investing in agricultural plantations to produce rice, maize, etc. We should also sell out high fuel consuming state cars and buy RAV4 for most officials so as to invest the money in the leading sectors of the economy." He's bringing up something. Let us identify all those wasteful institutions, eliminate them, and now empower the regions.
Yes, which is very obvious, because you would notice that most of the institutions he mentioned, which are very pertinent, they are not solving the problems on the ground. I think Malanfe said it, that all the ministries have regional delegations, divisional delegations, subdivisional delegations, and the rest. So what is the purpose? Because we are the only country where you see a chunk of institutions coming from the same central government, and they are coming down to meet the people. Whereas we could have maybe 2 or 3 from the central government, and the rest should come from within the people, because it will help the people to easily meet their day-to-day needs. But unfortunately, this is the situation we have in the country. We have close to 7 ministries of education. We could bring all and put a particular person, director of basic education, director of
Agriculture has 3.
good,
Wildlife, fishery, agriculture itself.
good, you see. So whereas we could bring all of this, forestry and wildlife,
4.
you see. So you can bring all of this and put in one ministry. Then you create now directors of this, because directors do not operate in the same way ministers operate. You will greatly cut that budget. If you look at the Ministry of Sports and Physical Education and Ministry of Youth Affairs, these are the same ministries. We could bring the Ministry of Sports and Physical Education and the Ministry of Youth Affairs as a ministry. Or we could take the Ministry of Youth Affairs or Sport and Physical Education and bring them together with leisure and tourism, where you cannot have directors from, or you merge these 3 and get a director that is in charge of this, because most of the activities, they still go about doing the same thing. So these are ministries that you notice that they have nothing. It's unfortunate that we thought we could reduce the number of ministries. Rather, what we got in 2018 was the Ministry of Territorial Administration, removing decentralization from it to be on its own. You see? But you could still create these same jobs using the same director. The issue here is, once you hear of a ministry, the budget is different from when you hear a ministry with a director. So these are some of the things which the the constitution could be looked into, you know, for us to reduce some of these things, because some of these ministries, I think they were not created by the constitution, they were created by a presidential decree. Now, another very worrying factor in our constitution is that every law that is made, there is always a text of implementation. And that text of implementation can take 20 years plus. We got the case of the now institution that I propose that it should be scrapped off, which is the Senate. After the 1996 Constitution, the Senate first came into existence in 2013. After the 1996 Constitution was put in place, the decentralization came first in place in 2019. So you realize that text of implementation can take more than 25 years for a particular law.
So a signature now has power over the constitution.
Great. It goes back to what you were saying, that the signature now has power. So once there is a law made, it should be promulgated without the signature of the president.
It has already been promulgated, but it is not active because they are waiting for the signature to do text.
Yeah, enact and promulgation are 2 different.
No, we have enact a law, please. Malanfe, you will speak. I know you want to tell me more about your party. You have the right to do so. We already have a law enacted. What is needed,
the president promulgates.
He should promulgate. But we should not have laws that are made
but
for him to.
We still need a text.
That's what I'm saying.
Text of implementation.
Promulgated already.
When we are talking, when I was talking about the fact that we have many of these ministries, like for instance in education, we name about 5. We should know that there are 5 ministers and about 4 minister delegates, secretary of state, secretary general, and if you look at their allowance, it may be the same with the budget of a council. So those are the various aspects we are looking into. You go to Ministry of Economy with the minister delegate. You go to Ministry of Medium-sized Enterprises, which is still under economy. You go to Ministry of, there are many of them. But I believe that those are some of the things that, of course, will be looked into. And to conclude, all commissions belong to a ministry. There is no commission that does not belong to a ministry. Example, the Commission of Bilingualism and Multiculturalism. What's the difference between that and the Ministry of Culture? You really hear the same commission of multiculturalism. There was the reporter of the Ministry of Culture. So when you take any of them, you can be listing all of them.
I'm praying that the Holy Spirit should inspire.
No. When we are talking about the head of state, is sacred. It's sacred. No, it's sacred. When we are talking about the head of state, it's sacred. So let us come back. When you know the head, you cannot be talking about the head of state just like that. Let us come back and be talking about the commission. You understand? Yes. When we look at these various commissions, for instance, Social and Economic Council. Economic Council, we have a Minister of Economy, Minister of Medium Size.
At the level of the presidency, we have economic advisors.
Economic advisors. At the presidency, an economic advisor to the president, they are two different things. So we should not meet advisors that are at the presidency and advisors that are, the president has his own advisor and the presidency has its own advisor. So I believe that if all these things are being curbed and organized, I think that the budget will definitely reduce.
Now, there is also a burning issue in Cameroon. We started getting the heat of it during the 2018 elections, where you have the Sardina, anti-Sardina. There is a very big rift between the people. You have the Nordists. A lot of hate speech on our media space. It is true that there is a law against that, but how do we get this to stop? That a Cameroonian can easily insult, discriminate against another Cameroonian because they come from some other.
I think that is because of too much centralization. And when there's too much centralization, the independent regions don't take power in determining their future, and they feel like someone appointed in their area doesn't merit it, and you start having hate speech and tribalism. There's the same thing I was talking about, the two-state federation issue, where I was saying that some people may think that these other people, they are not supposed to stay around with these other people. Now, to answer that question, if we have a system which is based on this federation, not decentralization, because that one to me has failed. To me, if we have a federational structure where members of those regions elect their own officials, their own governors, you will have less of this thing, because it will give powers to the region. Because some regions now believe that they are more economically viable than others, and they have been, and you know, the political appointment also goes towards a particular sector, and some people start feeling like where they are is the entire region. They can speak for the entire region, and that is why we are saying here that I'm saying here that if there is that federalism where officials of that area can vote, the citizens of that area can vote for their leaders, it will solve some of these issues. And now the constitution will hold them responsible for the development of their respective municipality. That is what I will say. And I will pray that the Holy Spirit, in his benevolence, should descend down. That same Holy Spirit that descended to the head of state, I pray that it should double its presence on the head of state to see into it that this issue about federation should be at least looked into, 10 states, whichever way, should be looked into. And so the Holy Spirit should also descend upon him to cut down the ministries, so that we should have safe budget, because that same Holy Spirit that descended, as we were told here, should be that same Holy Spirit that also descend upon him, so that we can have a reduction of the ministries and save budget. And so, you know, this is Lent. We are in the period of Lent, a period of descentment, where the Holy Spirit descends to people, to Christians. And since the Holy Spirit is descending this period, we pray that it should descend towards the unity palace and touch the heart of the head of state and also the lawmakers to see how they can, because this hate speech issue, if there's a law against hate speech, but is it being enforced? Sometimes it's even being broken by the people who we respect. Those who are even supposed to be the law protector. So the issue is implementation. We have seen a lot of issues. Go to TikTok. You have a certain group of people who are insulting a certain group of people. It's not like these people don't see it. They see it, they watched it, but what action is being done? The moment where we have people who are held responsible, and this can only come from this federation, because some people till now still believe that their region is more better than others.
Yeah, but what has the federation got to do with that? If we have a strict laws that punish persons across all the regions, I'm not sure anybody is going to engage in that.
Mr.
Yeah.
Kum Leonard.
If you engage in hate speech in the far north, the arm of the law should get you wherever you are.
No, to stop hate speech, all of us, we are d'accord. That is all about sanction. And when you look at the situation in the Middle East, why there you don't have crime wave is because they are very strict with their sanctions. Like, for instance, if you just say in Cameroon that if you are investigated and you stole 50, you stole $1 billion, you are being killed, it will stop. So it's just about taking the harsh laws and implementing them. But the issue with multiculturalism, that the way it's so vast, I think we need much more of civic education before that sanctions are coming up. Can you imagine, Mr. Kum Leonard, a section maybe of Littoral was supposed to be a region, for instance, and everything has been organized. You see people from there, another section says that we don't want to form a region with these people.
Yes,
we just want to have our own division on our own. There is a case also in a division in the West region also that are clamoring for a region. But there are other ethnic groups around there that are saying that we don't want a region with this particular ethnic group. So even if we are going back to federalism or whatsoever we are going to have to group people, it will still become a problem. And we cannot still go back to the system proposed by Honorable PCRN that talk about community. We cannot still create regions based on tribe. Then we are still promoting tribalism. So I believe that for us to contain all these should go back to the level of education. We cannot be saying that they should put sanction, Mr. Kum Leonard, but there are some people that will tell you that my son cannot get married to a daughter from this tribe, my daughter will not get married to a daughter of this tribe. You see a matured, exposed footballer playing in Europe, and he sit on TV and tell us that us, the Basas, we don't get married to Bamileke. Those are the problems we see. So I think that we really need much more of civic education before hammering on the issue of sanction.
Yeah, civic education. But what has the Bilingualism and Multiculturalism Commission been doing? They have been existing for so many years today, and you are here saying that we need to start educating. What have they been doing? Because the objective was also to raise these issues and build our living together. Yeah.
Let me be honest with respect to my opinion. The commission has been very inactive physically, but they have been very active by documents and certain outings by the commission head and his team. This is not what we want. That was a commission that was created. As much as I know that it is a commission that should be given.
Civic education.
It should be. It is a commission that should be given to the Ministry of Culture. It should be put into the Ministry of Culture. The commission is expected to enforce bilingualism. When it comes to multiculturalism, it is for the commission to promote. It therefore means that it should be able to explain to us some aspect in our civic education that promotes our living together. While when it comes to bilingualism, they have to be very, very effective in the sense that institutions that are supposed to publish information in both languages, it must be there. I have bought several goods from both companies because it spans across private companies and public institutions to ensure that whatever they send out as concerning a produce in this country, it should be in both languages. But this is not what is happening as concerning this commission, which I think it is happening so because it is still operating within the whims and caprices of the person who called these commissions to be. If this commission, because this is another commission that gives its reports to him, but I will tell you, it's a commission that gives its reports to him.
Yeah, you have marginalized Dr. Onde on this platform. Yes, he's just listening to you guys. I will end the program with him. Yes, if there is one thing that you want to see changed or fixed in our constitution, what should that be?
Mr. Liu,
you want many to be fixed?
There are so many things we touch at the level of our constitution.
Scale of preference.
Which we have hammered on a lot of them. And I will still insist that at the level of the constitution, this Article 66, I don't know how Mr. Malanfe wants to look at it, but this Article 66, because to me this is like the springboard from which we are having so many embezzlement problems in this country. I want to think that if this particular article of the constitution can be tackled, then it will be very difficult, of course not impossible, for us to have the alarming rate of embezzlement in this country.
Okay.
So to the lawmakers who are seated, this particular article of the constitution, Article 66, they have to just do what they have to do to see that we have what we call a smooth implementation of it, so that Konak itself can rest in the hands of all these people who are siphoning the country's wealth.
Dr. Nde Evans, our chair, we end the program with you. Thank you for accepting our invitation to be part of tonight's edition.
Thank you, Mr. Liu, and it's always a privilege when having the opportunity to be here. And I just want to say that amidst the many things we have been advocating for, we should not also forget that we have a serious problem which is just ticking like a time bomb waiting to explode, which is that of religion. And that we have to visit the law on the freedom of association. That should be the 1990 law, wherein I join my voice with that of Minister Tanganji to say that the churches should get themselves registered and be duly recognized.
Okay.
Because I believe that is a formality that will push them to get some degree of accountability, wherein their activities can be checked. Because if we look at what we are seeing out there in the context of religion, I want to say there is a lot of question marks, and all of this is as a result of the fact that we don't even know these groups.
Okay.
How they came about, what they are doing, their mode of operation, nothing, no trace about them.
Okay, we also want to thank you, Kedia Malanfe, for accepting to be part of tonight's edition of the program.
It's a pleasure to be here. I want to take this opportunity to thank the head of state, President Paul Biya, for accepting, heeding to our call and our cry to serve the nation for another 7 years. And these 7 years, he has promised that he will work with youths and women. And I want to take this opportunity to also tell the head of state that, please, when we are talking about youths, it's those from 18 to 35. He should not be deceived by people beside him that say they are 60 years and they are youth. So he promises that his government there will be youths. So we are expecting and will keep on supporting the head of state. Mr. Kum Leonard, can you imagine that at this age, even the head of state, even if when he decides time that he does not want to, and the people cry to him, they call upon him to serve the nation, and he is always there. I think we should be grateful that we have a divine leader put in place by God to lead us, which we should always appreciate.
Okay. Thank you for coming, Mr.
It's always a pleasure being here, Mr. Cole. All I have to say is thank you so much for Nchafa, the 14. You are indeed a great leader. What I observed, indeed you are a leader. You were able to speak to your people on the ground. If we can have many of you, I want to believe that a lot is going to be put in place as concerning the restive regions. And to the entire My 16 community, all we can do is to continue building the same community, especially our children who are yet to see reasons with us why they should not take drugs, and why they should not sit in the house without going to school, and why they should not get themselves involved in things that will easily push them to the Buea Central prisons and prisons across the nation. Thank you.
Thank you to you too, and also to you, Tah Mai Javis, for coming.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kum, and I want to pray that the Holy Spirit descend down to Menchum Division and touch the minds of our elected officials to pray and to pressure and to see how they can lobby that we should have at least, we don't need two things. Let's start first with root. We can have root, then we know that electricity can come. Because as it stands right now, when rainy season comes, it is going to be hell for those who want to access the division. And so my prayer is that the Holy Spirit should descend upon them. And also the Holy Spirit should descend on the head of state, that in his appointment, please let the Menchum division be remembered, because we are praying that also, as Kedia said, that it is the people begged and the head of state listened. So the people of Menchum also were among those who begged, and the head of state listened to stay, and so he should also remember them now in paradise and appoint a son or a daughter as a minister of the Menchum division. And also I pray that the MPs should not just end at interquarter football competition, as well we know that is where we'll see them and pictures. They should also see how they can legislate for laws that will benefit us, like the ID card, make sure that those things are well put in place, where people, Cameroonians, can have their basic things that they can run their economy.
Thank you all for coming, and also to you, Teta and Eli for production. We want to thank you all for watching this edition of the program. This discussion should not end with us at this level. It should also continue at the level of your homes, your communities, as we all hope for the best for our nation, Cameroon. Thank you once again. Stay blessed. Bye-bye.